two girls decide to go this path. It seems to be something very smart. It was more a feeling like we found gold and had the brilliant idea what to do next. I had to keep my face hidden at the beginning. It would be very surprising for clients in this business to see my name next to cannabis. I had kind of a double life for 1.5 years until I decided to completely turn to the cannabis industry, quit my own job. The decision was then quite easy because once you're really on the turning point, then you just jump, you don't go back. I'm a lawyer working in Germany in the field of cannabis, and it's a very extensive and very wide field, and I focused especially on helping companies and investors to set foot in the market, be it in the cannabis club market, but also in all the surrounding companies or topics. And also, I have my own companies in the cannabis industry. One is an electronic platform where people can subscribe and get all the knowledge they need to establish and operate a cannabis club. And we are updating this on a daily basis, having weekly strategy calls. And as the legalization proceeds, we also try, of course, to offer more value and more information to our subscribers. And the other company is a cannabis real estate company. So what's definitely needed if you want to grow cannabis is real estate. And there is a niche also for real estate agents. And we are trying to fill this niche and provide solutions also in this area.
So let's start with your origin story. What sparked your interest in cannabis in the first place?
Well, there has always been cannabis in my life, of course, but what's interesting is the moment I consider it also to be future business or something what I could really consider to work in. And that definitely happened. It was autumn 2022, and I read a newspaper article, and it says, "I am the first German cannabis lawyer influencer." And I was, these three words don't go with each other, because I knew I was a lawyer and it does not fit with being at the same time an influencer and also with cannabis. And so I read the article and found out about Lito. And he was the first of our kind, so to say, of lawyers who try to rethink systems and to build up their own. And it sparked my interest because it was so early back in the days. There was not even a draft of the law, nothing what would define how the future of cannabis would look like. But then already back in the day, he and us started discussing a potential future and how also to create it as a lawyer, and showing me that such systems can be made, and especially should be made by people who are young and who have also interest in operational doing in cannabis industry, not just the legal parts, showed me that this could be a whole nother potential and world for the future to enter.
So how did you contact him? You just walked into his office, or how did that happen?
I found him on LinkedIn, and I just wrote him a message on LinkedIn and said, from lawyer to lawyer, I am very convinced that your idea is brilliant. So just giving you some appreciation. And he answered right away. It offered me a Zoom call. It's just an exchange network. Back in the day, I did not know the importance of networking that much. I was working in an international law firm, and I was networking a lot with colleagues, with clients, with other lawyers, but I was not really networking within industries. And with him, I also recognized the importance of really connect with people, hear their stories, exchange what they are doing, and then remember this information and use them for your own case, also to find problems and solutions. And so when I started talking with him, it was like he got me like a tsunami. It was crazy because he did not stop talking, and he knew so much of things I had never heard before in terms of cannabis, and also in terms of the businesses there. And I was, at one part was confused, but the other one admired it and somehow wanted to also get into touch with this topic even more. And then it got very quick, because it got into my head, and when something gets into my head, I cannot stop thinking about it. And I contacted my friend Olivia, who was a criminal lawyer, and she came to me, to my house, and I prepared some ideas I wanted to present her. I knew it was a Sunday, and talked to her about my meeting with Lito and what he told me, the things, and what I, in the meantime, also researched in terms of cannabis law and what's happening in Germany, legalization. And she, as a criminal lawyer, was of course also aware of criminal proceedings and that part of the story. And so on this Sunday, we decided to set foot up in this industry, and together especially to build now a joint venture and to ask Lito if we should maybe form a trio to see what will happen. And these have been the beginnings of nearly everything, of us working there, of us founding the companies, and of everything what developed in Germany afterwards based on our conclusion to work together as three.
Can you tell me more about your background before cannabis?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you were also working in the law, but a different part. Like, why the switch?
I worked in an international law firm and doing mostly mergers and acquisitions, and later switched on helping private equity funds, so also in venture capital, which means with a lot of startups. And I was always interested in corporate law a lot. So also while I was studying, I had my chosen additional courses in everything related to corporate law or transaction law, or also stock markets. So always a very business-driven interest behind what I was doing. And early I realized that, for example, criminal law, family law, everything which gets too personal was not exactly my way. I liked structuring and creating rather than discussing, arguing, and fighting. And so I got into the direction of negotiating contracts, building up corporate structures, building up companies. I was there working for 4 or 5 years, 5 years in total. And later I started, in between I already started working in the cannabis industry, which was quite funny because of course I had to keep my face hidden at the beginning. It would be very surprising for my work, or also for some clients in this business, to see my name next to cannabis. That's still very conservative, and I wanted to avoid to have there some requests. But cannabis was not far enough to just switch to it and start in this industry to work there completely. So I had kind of a double life for 1 year, 1.5 years, until I decided to completely turn to the cannabis industry, quit my old job. And basically what I have been doing there, to try to do it in the industry in terms of cannabis businesses, help them set foot up, help them to structure, develop their internal contracts, relations. So just start setting up a real industry out of the shadow into the light, and then helping them develop in Germany.
How did people around you, your family, friends, colleagues, took it when you came out across, let's say?
Well, my best friend Olivia directly jumped into the boat. So she was with me right from the beginning. And I think that also gave trust to a lot of other people in my surrounding, because it was okay, if these 2 girls decide to go this path, it seems to be something very smart. Because they're both lawyers, criminal law, corporate law. It was more a feeling like we found gold and had the brilliant idea what to do next. But nevertheless, especially in terms of my parents, I first also did not tell them before I had something proper, so something what is already functional, not just a vision or an idea, but something to show, because it's still, parents care, of course, and still you have to explain to them that it's not dangerous and you will not get yourself into trouble, especially in terms of being scared with, for example, what kind of clients you may work in future, or if you are trying to define the law, or to also bend the law. If you are not overbending it, then maybe get yourself into trouble. So they had some reasons to believe, but step by step we are gaining trust.
And it must take a lot of courage to dive into something, with so much uncertainty as lawyers. How did you make that jump?
It's very interesting because, of course, there is a lot of uncertainty, but that is also kind of the challenge, because somebody has to bring structure in it and somebody has to help to develop something. And it was more an urge of me who likes exactly to do these things, to find a place where I can develop my skills and where I can also use them. So it's a lot of also my personal challenge to help to raise something here, or to make a template in Germany how this could work. And honestly, when we started, we also saw that not many lawyers have been there with the same interests. So either they don't even know, or they don't consider this as a proper business case because they're also lacking of information. But I figured out that if there are not a lot of people who know how to do it, and it has to be done, and I know how I would do it, or I can also count on the help of other lawyers who I include into this new topic, then it is something what really challenged me to proceed. And the decision was then quite easy, because once you're really on the turning point, then you just jump, you don't go back.
So after you jump, what changed? What have you learned about yourself or about the business?
Well, I have learned that this can be brutal too. So that was after I jumped and I first noticed what this means to really work in the cannabis industry and to really have also businesses. Because one part is being a lawyer and advising law, advising clients, having an hourly fee. I mean, still you have to find new clients, but it's easy if there are everywhere problems and you have the solutions. But what hit me was the part with having own companies in the cannabis industry, and especially one which was which is very client-based. So it's very based on how the market is developing. And in the moment I jumped, 1 month, 6 weeks later, the government decided to do the elections end of February, and it was now somewhere mid of November. And I realized, okay, that's something you did not have in mind. What if political situation all of a sudden changes, and especially cannabis is so much dependent on what's currently happening, that in the moment that I figured out, oh wow, there will definitely be an issue and people will be scared to proceed and to invest. And in this moment, you're very dependent on circumstances which you cannot really influence. And to keep your peace and to keep also going through these times where things don't seem right at first glance, but and where you are so depending of others, so what's happening, what you cannot influence, to keep your sanity also in these times is something I learned within the last few months. And luckily it went everything to the positives, 3 elections done, very good result, actually better result than expected. So I was already very optimistic, but they even crossed it, and it's even more favorable than I could imagine. So it showed me that patience and peace also gets, in the end you get your result also in a positive way if you are very patient and if you just never stop believing in your path. So it's just over when it's really over. Until then you can keep going and finding solution on a daily basis.
Yeah, so after you jump into this whole new endeavor, it took you some time to settle down on how you approach everything, to be really sure about what you're doing, right? There were those doubts, and then there's the internal journey, and you arrive somewhere. So along the journey, do you remember which client or business that you worked with give you the most impression, left most memory?
Maybe not a client, but I remember a moment which was very memorable. With our Cannabis Law Academy, we have you can imagine it at having a lot of clients at the same time, because we give them the same contracts and the same content. And so it's merely a platform where they subscribe to, and then they get the knowledge. So everything you publish there, or every contract you do, is now in the hands of multiple persons. You don't know if 50 will use it, if 100 will use it, if in future the next 500 will use it. And so in this moment I realized if you make a mistake now, then you make a mistake not for one client, you make it for 200, 500, 100. So you really have to take care, and you will be reviewed. It's not just that nobody will take a look at these contracts, or at these articles of association or at this legal review, whatever, because everything will be put under review by the authority or at the latest in front of the court. And everything what you now don't think of or make a mistake could have a bad result in the future. And by realizing that you really have to be then accurate in the information which you gather and how you proceeded to use your legal tools. Of course, I cannot predict the future, but I can at least use the tools and learn how to try to predict problems and then find solutions already. And this was one of the most memorable cases because it gave me an extra feeling of taking care to be very accurate when it comes to cannabis law.
So during this journey, what surprised you most that you were not expecting?
I was not expecting to meet so many people likewise, in terms of businesses, but also in terms of course, legal, working in the legal area. So it's a great network we created all over the world where we are exchanging on our experiences and where we are exchanging also on our solutions. And with the business owners, it's so amazing to exchange and build the industry. And what surprised me most is how easy it is once you find a common ground and you start working together. And also how easy it is sometimes to then decline to work with somebody and choose another path. But that was definitely one of the highlights in this whole journey.
So what are you busy with now? What is the most important thing for you now?
Most important thing for me currently is, the market has stabilized and that's already amazing. So now we have a very clear foundation, and now I think that also more companies will start to invest who have been hesitant a bit before. And to be honest, I think the last year was just a warming up, because also with clubs the regulation started in July, and then it took a lot of time because the authorities had to also keep it going or to do the procedures properly and in time. But for example, last week we had the first cannabis club in Bavaria, which was approved, which is a huge milestone because now even in Bavaria there will be a cannabis club, which is already huge news, which will be all over the papers. And so I think now the real work will start. So what I'm currently busy with is we have our whole setup for the cannabis clubs to help them how to be established and how to operate the club. But of course now in the course of operations a lot of problems occur, which we will now find solutions step by step. And I cannot really predict which problems will occur. I just know which ones I already identified, and will publish some also legal reviews and solutions in this regard.
So if you can just change one thing in the industry right now, what would it be?
I would change the insecurity of the people, because sometimes insecurities are just based on emotions and not on facts. And I would like that people are focusing more on facts. When it comes on facts, how the law should, for example, be interpreted, or also the authorities, both, not just the people working there, but also the authorities. And at the same time to focus on facts when it comes to assessing the situation. If it is really progressing, if it is developing, if there are possibilities. It's always in cannabis that you have to convince people, although everyone knows what's coming. You see examples from other countries, you see examples from US, Canada, but still it's everyone is so negative nowadays, but not based on facts, but based on emotions and based on, I don't know, now the political campaigns. But if you really take into consideration hard facts, try to build a business case onto that or an assessment, then it's much better, and this is something I would like to change.
So when you think about the future of your life in cannabis, right? What do you want to see?
I want to see nice functioning systems in the long term. So maybe Germany is really the first step of creating something what can also be mirrored in other countries, and could create like a step plan how to legalize. And I would love to see this happen first within Europe, but then later, step by step, also internationally, and try also to connect these systems with each other, because now is the time to really create a whole industry, not just nationwide, internationally. And the better you understand the underlying law and the underlying systems, the better you can also later combine them, have import, export very well regulated, can have it on a federal level or legally. So step by step further creating the industries, and of course making sure that Germany does not mess up in the next years. So there will be the next steps.
So what kind of problem do I come to you with that you can solve? For example, if I'm looking for a grow facility, you can find it for me?
Actually, you can count for everything what is needed in Germany, because I have a solution to everything, and if I don't have it, then my network has it, or I know somebody to ask. So either I can help legally, or I can help with properties, with this real estate agency, whatever property is needed. Mostly cannabis related, it makes sense because we are focusing on also finding properties which are fittable for cannabis industries, and also getting already in touch with the owners, explaining them. So very sensitive field again, also when it comes to the requirements of the facility itself, but also on the social communication, of course. And we are helping with all of this.
Nice.
Cool.
Yes.